a one-of Matter Reshaper in Victor Logan's deck. That's spicy.
Yeah, we see that in small numbers in some of these ramp decks. If it finds a land, hey, guess what? That's a ramp spell.
I like the one-of it. That's, I think, not that we're playing it. I understand that, but, you know, it's a sometimes card. So, for Victor, his turn 2 play is going to be Sylvan Advocate. He does play it off Shrine of the Forsaken Gods.
For a long time, I did not realize that the ability to generate 2 mana when you controlled 7 lands on Shrine of the Forsaken Gods could only be used on colorless spells.
Oh, okay. This card would be much better.
I thought this card looked like pretty medium if you could just use it on any spell. Then I was like, oh.
It's bad.
I went to cast like a green spell with it, and I was like, this is not really what I wanted. I guess you still play it.
Well, Victor can cast a green spell with it if you count Worldbreaker.
That's a good one.
It's not a cost green mana, but it's not a green spell. Devoid's crazy.
He'll have a mana floating, considering that he'll have 7 lands in play. But you know, when he gets up to like 12 lands, that'll start to matter.
Grasp of Darkness will take care of Sylvan Advocate. Now, the early plays in this matchup, you know, Victor's early creatures, Tom's early kill spells, they just don't seem very relevant to me here.
No, there are matchups where that removal spell on the Sylvan Advocate would be a major hindrance on the game plan, but with the Shrine of the Forsaken Gods already in play, I think Tom knows that this is what he's doing, but it's not what he wants to be doing.
Wastes on turn 3 from Victor. He also plays Nissa's Pilgrimage, netting himself 2 forests, one of them into play. Now, the ramp decks do have a weakness to flyers, and that's going to be where Tom's going to try to attack him.
Yep. Interesting to note that Worldbreaker actually has reach. Helps you shore it up a little bit, but it can only block 1 creature at a time.
Flamewake Phoenix is the play from Tom. For Victor, he will Pilgrimage again for more forests. Land number 6 into play. Shrine of the Forsaken Gods may be active next turn.
Practically there.
Could break some worlds.
I'd also like to point out that Bane of Balagat does not have reach.
That's true. It also can get roasted. What if you played Bane of Balagat and he roasted it?
You would probably lose on the spot.
How bad would you feel about that 2-mana spell killing your 7-draw?
I'd feel pretty bad about my draft.
Yeah. What are we drafting now? I don't know what set we're drafting. If you're roasting my Bane of Balagat.
Yeah, the roast is a little out of place, isn't it?
We're back over to Tom. He has Victor down to 18. With the 2 ramp spells on the Shrine, Tom knows he could be facing down a late game threat as early as next turn. Not much he can do about it, though.
Yeah.
Phoenix will swing in for 2. Here's Thunderbreak Regent. If he has a Kolagon next turn, maybe he doesn't care, as long as it's not Worldbreaker. Land number 7, and a pass from Victor.
This is a good sign for Tom. If Victor
Green light.
If Victor had an Ugin, you'd have to imagine that would be in play and at 3 loyalty already.
He's going to play Thopter Engineer. Now, this is an interesting one. Tom Ross is actually playing Thopter Engineer over Hordling Outburst in this deck. Swings in for 7. Now, this is a card you're pretty familiar with. You've sleeved this one up for a Pro Tour before.
Not in a draft deck either. Played 4 of these guys and Constructed. It's a little bit different when your deck has a Soul Artifact and Shrapnel Blast. It is defensible in Tom's deck, though. He has a Hangerback Walker here. They can churn out for 2 and attack right away. That's a nice little synergy. It's all artifact creatures that can haste.
All right, so Victor Logan misses on finding a late game threat. He plays out Evolving Wilds Past, and that is the window Tom Ross needs. Another Thopter Engineer will give exactly 9 damage. He plays it, swings in, and takes game 1.
And this is the historic weakness of ramp decks. You have to have a bunch of spells that are just mana, and you only have so much business, and that business did not show up to play for Logan.
It's a 3-piece puzzle, right? You need lands, you need ramp, and you need finishers, and as soon as one of those pieces goes missing, your hands are pretty unplayable.
Yep, and it's also possible with the hand that Tom had. He had so many creatures that one finisher might not have done it. Had to be Ugin, pretty much.
Yeah, we look at the sideboard. I feel like that game 1 is a game which Eldrazi is supposed to win because it almost always gets worse after sideboard. We'll look at Tom's board. Once again, I feel like we're saying this every match, hey, what about Transgress the Mind?
Yeah, why don't we bring that one in? It seems to hit every spell that matters. Most of the spells that are even in the deck. Exiles, if this is actually relevant, if you find a Worldbreaker, it has that ability to return itself from the graveyard to your hand by sacrificing a land and paying some mana. Exile with Transgress doesn't come back.
How did it end up in the graveyard? I guess we murderous cut it?
I mean, it could happen. I don't know. Maybe you discarded it to Colligan's command.
We looted it away with Jace in our Jace ramp deck. It's where Jace flips and then flashes back Nissa's Pilgrimage. It's a sweet deck.
You don't just win every game where you cast World Breaker. I'm sure it dies sometimes.
What? What if there's that? Okay. Looking at Victor's side of the board, he has some Jaddy Offshoots, some Matter Reshapers, Thought Not Seer, Seismic Rupture, Crumble to Dust. Do we like any of them?
Thought Not Seer actually seems fine here, considering that the Dragons deck does hinge pretty hard on a few specific flyers. On the play, you'll be able to get in before they can even cast a Thunderbreak Regent. Then the Matter Reshapers are fine. They can block the creatures that are on the ground, but I'm not excited about them. Probably don't bring them in.
Yeah, the worry be that Tom ignores them, right?
Yeah.
If Tom just hits him with Thunderbreak Regions, Matter Reshapers.
Seismic Rupture is very similar to Matter Reshaper here. Just doesn't deal with much of anything. It's
certainly not for this matchup. Seismic Rupture dealing 2 damage.
It's kind of Thought Not Seer or bust. You could also bring in Jaddy Offshoot, but this card is about as close to a blank as you can have in any Magic deck. You could gain a little bit of life, but as we've seen from Logan in this deck, when you get attacked for that much damage, a couple points off of some lands here and there is not going to be a good enough life gain.
A player needs no introduction. Tom Ross, the man in the leather jacket over there. See him, he's a 2-time competitor in the Players' Championship from Roanoke, Virginia. This has 8 open top 8s as well as 2 wins. Can't forget his 2 invitational wins back-to-back in 2014, winning the Season 2 and 3 invitationals.
With the same decks.
Well, almost the same decks. I mean, we had to switch up. We had to switch it up a little. He won with Infect and one with Boss Sly. But he is the 5-time Louisiana state champion. That's the original hometown. Has since moved to Roanoke. Also a Mortal Kombat 10 enthusiast, specializing in Melina. That's the. Is she the? I know she's one of the female ninjas. I don't know if she's the fan one or the dagger one.
I believe she's the one that has like a monster face under her mask.
Okay, so she's the evil one, right? Because one of them's good and one of them's evil, I think. Or maybe they're both evil.
I don't. Mortal Kombat's a very. It's hard to define
I'm
good
sure
and evil in a universe with such gray morality. Everyone's fighting to the death. How good could you really be?
The Outland invasion is a serious thing.
I believe you. Is it Outland or Outworld? I believe it's Outworld.
Is Outworld? I'm working on it. I've never actually played a Mortal Kombat game.
My favorite Mortal Kombat character is, of course, Goro.
He's got 4 arms,
He's
right?
not more special than somebody that's just really huge, but he has 4 arms, so you know.
Whenever I play fighting games, I always like the 2 kinds of. I like the really weird champions. You know, the ones like who their moveset is really weird. Or I like the ones that are just humongous.
So would you be a Bo Rai Cho fan?
I don't know who that is.
His specialty is the Drunken Fist.
That's probably a guy I'd be down for. You know, otherwise, like Street Fighter, I was a Zangief guy. You know, I'm just going to punch you. I'll take your hit and I'll punch you. That's great.
Sounds reasonable.
All right, Victor Logan, turn 2, Ruin in their wake. That's the first time we got to see it, and I'll admit, off the waist, it's pretty impressive. He goes to 3 mana on turn 2.
He has all of his colors and his colorless.
We'll see how Tom responds. Not much pressure on turn 2 in Red Black Dragons. We've been talking about that all weekend. And even last game, I felt like Victor was the favorite if his hand had come together. The problem, he got to enough mana in time to win the game. The problem was he just didn't have the finisher. Transgress the Mind cast here.
Yeah, so we see 2 of the cards it seemed like obvious ones to sideboard in. The Transgress for Tom and taking the Thought Not Seer for Logan.
Yeah, seizing the Thought Not Seer, so to speak. Explosive Vegetation, Nissa's Pilgrimage, Sylvan Advocate were the other cards in Victor's hand. So here's some Explosive Vegetation. Once again, we see Victor getting up to 6 lands, no problem, with plenty of life points. The question will be whether or not Victor has a finisher. He didn't have one last game, and he doesn't have one now.
He peeled an Ugin off the top. Now it's a matter of getting there.
Yeah.
Though Tom's no slouch. Those Thopter engineers have some colorless Thopters that they leave behind. Doesn't have the engineer here, though.
You just can't minus the Ugin into Thopter engineer.
No, you're going to get punished, right?
Here's Nissa's Pilgrimage.
This gets us into Ugin territory next turn.
It's Spell Mastery, Nissa's Pilgrimage. Here's one forest, and not one, 2 forests into hand. Look at that.
Logan is, of course, a spell master. He's been at this for a while.
3 times, to be exact. So if I cast 2 spells, then I get to be a master of spells?
Yes.
It's quick learning curve.
I believe that is the same requirements for becoming a saint. You need to perform 2 miracles.
Yeah, you need 2 confirmed miracles.
Yes. So, makes sense.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that way, but you know. All right. Murderous Cut takes care of Sylvan Advocate. Tom keeping the board clean, but Victor's at 20. Now he's tapping 8. Oh boy, here's Ugin.
Tom shrugged his shoulders.
Yep.
At least I'm not dead yet.
If you haven't watched Tom Ross play, he is a man who is hard to phase. You could cast 8-drop for the Doom, and you will not get a reaction.
Tom, the house is on fire. Yep.
Like, yep.
We should probably go outside.
Yeah. No, that is not. Should go outside. You're not wrong. Ugin up to 9 from that +2. Now, the danger here is going to be if that Ugin gets to ultimate.
Gains a lot of life,
I don't
draws a
think
lot
Tom
of
can beat that if it goes
No.
-10.
It's going to be tough for Tom to beat it just hanging out at 9.
Yeah, he doesn't have Ruinous Path or any sort of Planeswalker removal here. He can try to chip it down with Kolagon if he has one.
It's a play. You don't get it all the way in 2 cracks, but how else are you beating Ugin?
Land 5. Well,
Ooh.
you talked about it. This is the answer. It's the Thopter Engineer.
Practically Ugin proof.
You know, there was one thing which we forgot, though. He can just +3 and kill the Thopter.
Now, that card has more than one ability?
Yeah, we don't have to -3 to kill the Engineer. I know that was the tech play, but we can do this where he just shoots it.
That's gross.
Ugin up to 10. It still threatens to ultimate next turn.
Correctly shoots down the Thopter, seeing as the Engineer can be exiled with the -X.
That's why we're shooting the Thopter. It has nothing to do with the 4/5 blocker.
Yep.
Sylvan Advocate was the play there. That's the 4/5. And Kolagon will dash in at Ugin.
I thought
he was scooping for us. I was like, it doesn't do that much damage.
Can't
Hold on,
beat
hold
that
on.
one, you know?
Dang, he had it.
That was a hard cast from Tom.
Can't be a hard. We'll confirm that. I don't think he can actually let Ugin -10, can he? We'll confirm that it was actually cast. Yeah, that was a hard cast Kolagon. He is offering the ultimate to Victor Logan.
He could be trying to bait Logan into doing a -5, and then he could have another Kolagon.
Logan will take the -10.
Logan says, you know what's great about drawing 7 cards? All of it.
So one thing I like about Tom Ross, and you might say, why didn't Tom Ross make that attack here? You know, because this seems like a disaster. What I imagine he's doing actually is exactly what you described here, where he views the board as grim enough that what he needs is a massive misplay from his opponent to win. So he just makes this play and hopes that Victor doesn't do it. Or that maybe Victor does do it and that it misses. I mean, here he gained 7, drew 7.
Okay, until this Oath of Nissa found World Breaker, the
We were
board
okay.
state actually looked worse than when the Ugin was just in play over all this other stuff. But that World Breaker is going to do what World Breakers do.
He's going to break the world.
Yeah.
World Breaker is one of our first shots of this guy from Oath of the Gatewatch. See, it found it off this Oath of Nissa. It is a 5/7 reach with Devoid. When you cast, it's a big acidic slime. When you cast it, you exile the artifact, enchantment, or land.
And the Ugin actually picked up a Sanctum of Ugin, which will trigger off of the World Breaker here. This game is all but over.
It is so hard for Green-Red Eldrazi to ultimate an Ugin and not win the game. You see, that only got him a World Breaker and a Nulamog.
Okay, I'm calling shenanigans here because Ugin found Sanctum of Ugin. Perfect,
Perfect.
flavorful, love it.
Who's in the Sanctum of Ugin?
Sanctum of Ugin found Ulamog? I think
I don't,
not.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a Sanctum at all. I don't want to go there.
We need to get the flavor judge on this one.
And apparently, Ulamog exiles 7 permanents when you cast it, as Tom's picking them up for game number 3.
I believe that the rules text is actually you win the game.
First, we thought I was pointing to 2 permanents, then Tom started picking up 5 of them. I'm like, that's not what that does.
No, this one does not have Annihilator.
Dominating game there from Green Red Eldrazi. Both games, we've seen Victor be able to ramp faster than Tom is really able to do damage. I feel like Tom got game 1 because Victor's hand didn't cooperate, but as long as his hand is reasonable, how does Tom get this?
Well, I don't know. He picked up 1 card from his sideboard there. I can see on this small camera here, looks like a Kalitas. He just wants to find any way to pressure his opponent as possible.
He's really lacking on pressure, and if that's the case, he's going to have to bring in Kalitas. Now, there's a whole world of problems with that. I mean, for example, Victor has a 2-drop in Sylvan Advocate that can block Kalitas and kill it.
Turn 2, Advocate. Turn 3, whatever. Turn 4, Vegetation, we're there.
Yeah. It's not that hard. I mean, Tom's going to need, well, my guess is that he'll need to have a double Transgress the Mind hand, something where he takes all of Victor's finishers, plays a maybe Transgress turn 2, Transgress turns 3, Dragon turn 4, hope Victor doesn't draw a finisher, Kolaghan turn 5. Okay, now we got him. Now we got him, as long as there wasn't a good top deck there. I mean, he did transgress away all of Victor's late game, and then Victor top decked an Ugin. And I mean, you might say, wow, how lucky on Victor's side, but that's kind of what this deck does.
Yeah, it's going to happen inevitably. You need either a level of speed that makes the ramp strategy invalid that the Red-Black Dragons deck simply does not possess. He's just not fast enough, so he needs that disruption as well.
Players are going to get ready for Game 3 here between Green Red Eldrazi and Red Black Dragons. If you want to learn more about this deck and Tom Ross and many of the other players on the SCG Tour, you can sign up for our newsletter. It's your source for Magic the Gathering news. You get to watch the SCG Tour Match of the Week, get exclusive deck list and deck advice from all of your players to catch up on these events, and get the exclusive cardboard crack comic. You can sign up for free at starcitygames.com/newsletter.
Saw Todd Anderson's face there, the Modern Classic winner last weekend with Teamer Delver.
You gotta imagine that makes you pretty happy to hear Modern winning one by that deck.
I was until I saw the deck list.
It has Delvers, right? He called the Teamer Delver, so we're still okay then?
Yeah, full 4 copies too.
I don't see why we're complaining anymore.
Vapor Snags, that's a throwback to Standard.
Yeah. I even played that deck in a tournament once. That was a strange experience. You know, it's not... I don't know.
It's not a combo deck?
It's not a combo deck.
Geist of St. Trapped and Vapor Snag is as close to a combo as a lot of standard formats get.
It's a lot of decisions. No, just... But, yeah, so it's interesting. Teamer Delver is a deck which we might see show up now in Modern. The question before was that if you were going to play Teamer, you should probably just put Twin in it.
I actually have some concerns about the card Tarmogoyf right now. I've seen a lot of main deck Relica Progenitus, in particular this Black X Eldrazi deck.
Yeah,
They're just very happy to do that to you and then can put you in a bad spot. So I haven't figured out what configuration of Delver I want right yet. It's still on the table.
I foolishly tried to play a Moto daily when I was looking for new combo decks with a Living End, and then I got paired against that Black Eldrazi deck, and we want to talk about a deck that's not good right now.
I saw that matchup happen in IQ recently. There was just like this huge sigh.
He's got main deck Scrabbling Claws.
Really? Judge, can I get a deck check? My opponent played Scrabbling Claws. Is that even constructed playable?
Game 1, he curves Relic into Scrabbling Claws. You're like, wow, is this happening? Like, I don't know how I ever win. That graveyard hit actually good against a lot of other decks in the format. Players playing Eternal Command.
Snapcaster Mage at all.
Yeah. Game 3 here. Tom Ross, Victor Logan.
Tassiger, Murderous Cut. Delve is still in the format.
Those ones I feel like you can get around. You know, that's incidental. I mean, it's still good, but...
Speaking of good.
There we have it again. Ruin in their wake. Turn 2 off the wastes. Victor, the same start he had last game. Now he's on the draw this time, so Tom gets an extra turn.
Yep. But on the draw, that's where this really matters, and it has come together perfectly so far.
Yeah, and I like this. We saw Chris Ricky's deck in the finals last weekend playing 4 Radical Mystics, 4 Leaf Gilders. Didn't really want to mess with waste mana. What I like here is that if you look at the cards that Tom Ross has access to, if it was all Leaf Gilders and Rattleclaw Mystics, you might see Tom keep in Fiery Impulses, Draconic Roars. His deck has no answer to this.
Right. Those creatures are very fragile. We have seen plenty of fiery impulses on camera this weekend.
2 damage comes in off Flamewake Phoenix. Victor to 18. Here's Shrine of the Forsaken Gods and Thought Not Seer off the colorless mana. So what do we have? We have Obnixilis, Kolagon, Pia and Kiran Nalar, and Thopter Engineer. This looks like a green light for Victor.
It does. No 4th land for Tom. All stuff that is either Thopter Engineer or requires more mana than Tom has. Probably just take the Kolagon. It matters more than anything else.
You can take Kolagon now. What about taking Pia and Kiran Nalar?
There's merit to it. He's only 1 land off of that one.
He's 1 land off of it. If you take it, his best play next turn is either Thopter Engineer, miss a land drop, Thopter Engineer land 4. Like, these are all very good things.
It's also true that the Pia and Kiran steps up the power level of any future Kolagons.
Sure.
So taking that is relevant.
And that's what he takes. Thopter Engineer is a play from Tom. I believe his draw was also Thopter Engineer.
Yep. So we'll have a play next turn anyway.
Yeah. No land 4 for Tom, though. Thought Not Seer is going to bash in. Puts Tom to 15. I'm a little surprised to see that guy attack. I don't know if he even needs to do that in this matchup. I guess if he has Sylvan Advocate, it's fine.
Yeah, I played the ramp deck for a little bit before Oath of the Gatewatch was legal, and almost every game that you won, it was like a flawless victory. It was just, it got to the point where you cast a bunch of Ulamogs, your opponent just had nothing going on, and they were dead in every way. They were decked, they were dead on damage, and they had no permanence.
So we see Sylvan Advocate into Ruin in their wake, so it turns on Advocate. How often do Thought Not Seer and Advocate team up to to just win that way? Is that real?
It's a new avenue. It looks pretty real here.
Right now, yeah. Thought Not Seer and Sylvan Advocate swing again. Tom Ross's play was the 2nd Thopter Engineer. He swung for 4 to put Victor to 11.
I imagine that this isn't going to work against a Siege Rhino deck, but
it is 8 points of power. Tom's at 15. That's 2 turns.
yeah, it's looking real good here.
As the race on the board is very close. Says nothing of the fact that Victor has larger cards in his hand. Tom will take 4, and he joins Victor at 11 apiece. Evolving Wilds, Ruin in their wake for Victor. He'll go ahead and crack them both.
That could have been much worse for Tom.
Yes, getting lands, that's fine.
Building up for something possibly next turn, but we have at least dodged a World Breaker on the 7 mana.
3rd Thopter Engineer. Swing for 5. You know, if he has the 4th Thopter Engineer, it's lethal.
Card's great. Pia and
Love
Kiran
it, love
also
it.
makes some Thopters that can attack with haste.
That's also lethal. That's a steady stream of chump blockers, right? And with that 3rd Thopter Engineer, I think Tom is ahead with the onboard race. If Victor just bricks on finishers, Tom can win. Sanctum of Ugin, yeah, Victor doesn't have anything.
Blocking with the Engineer there did turn off Pia and Kiran as a top deck for the win.
And I think Tom just drew Pia and Kiran. And he did.
Oh,
That's
no.
going to cost him. I don't know if it'll cost him the game, but
right.
He's got to be wanting that one back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he'll play Pia and Kiran. Swings to put Victor to 1. Victor's going to need a sweeper. Oath of Nissa. But what is he looking for?
Ugin doesn't do it here.
Ugin doesn't do it.
Oath of Nissa can't find Kozilek's Return.
And that'll be it. Tom Ross, Red Black Dragons, fades the finisher for a 2nd time, and with that win, he'll improve to 10-3 and stay in top 8 contention.
Mm-hmm. Slight misstep on the block there. Didn't matter. The ramp deck, too much air.
Yeah, and those Thopters from Thopter Engineer actually did add up. You know, we were looking at that Oath of Nissan last turn and thinking, what could he actually ramp into? But you're completely right. It's not, Ugin doesn't save him. He doesn't actually have a finisher for that. He has 4 Kozilek's Returns in his deck. I don't even know if those are still in the deck anymore.
That's true. Unless you're triggering it from the graveyard, it's not killing most of Tom's cards that matter. So dragons survive 1 copy of Kozilek's Return. You're not expecting to lose to Thopters, right?
Well, each time, games 1 and 3, the ones that Tom won, Victor had a lot of opportunities where if he had a finisher, I do think he runs away with those games.
Yep.